Welcome to NFL. Close your eyes and let the story begin. Zebi's courage vanished. Meru's boldness evaporated. Even Aini grew flustered. "Amma will kill us," she whispered, shaking her motionless sisters. Look, this was only a joke. Please stay. Wait, we were just..." Zebi stammered helplessly. Aini pleaded as well. "Oh, for heaven's sake, we said it was a joke." Meru stamped her foot, then quickly reached for the fluttering paper peeking from the upper pocket of his shirt. But he gently caught her wrist and moved it aside with great politeness. No, that wouldn't be nice." "Uff!" She stomped her foot again and stormed out of the room. Rude man, making a mountain out of a molehill. If only that paper had fallen into my hands, I'd have sent it straight to hell for all I care. She flung herself onto a bed in the other room and pulled a sheet over herself from head to toe. Inside, though, she was nervous. Amma only needs an excuse to scold us. She waited for Zebi and Aini, muttering little incantations of frustration under her breath. Several moments passed. Then more time slipped away. At last, she slowly pushed the sheet aside. The room was empty. She removed the sheet entirely and tiptoed out. Amma had finished her prayers, and now the sound of conversation drifted from Maruf Hassan's room. Quietly, she lifted the curtain hanging at the doorway and peered inside. Amma was sitting on the charpoy across the room. Behind her, Zebi sat huddled quietly. Aini, meanwhile, was turning red with indignation at something Maruf Hassan was saying. "Ugh, those two. If they come out of that room right now, I'll set them straight," Meru muttered through clenched teeth as she dropped the curtain and returned to the room. She waited for them for a long time. Gradually, a haze of drowsiness settled over her mind. Just before sleep claimed her, she heard faint rustling sounds in the room. "Brother Maruf is so nice. I'll never let him leave this place." Aini's voice floated from far away. Meru tried to move her tongue to scold her, but sleep was already too heavy. Turning onto her side, she drifted into a deep slumber. They feared Meru's displeasure, so the next morning, Zebi and Aini told her all sorts of stories to placate her. Amma had suddenly come in, they explained. Only with difficulty did Meru's mood soften. They promised to serve her tea whenever she pleased, and to let her listen to the radio whenever she wished. Within moments, she had extracted every concession she wanted. Then she said, "He told us he'll leave as soon as his transfer comes through. Until then, we should tolerate him." "Meru, we were unfair too," Zebi admitted. "A guest is a guest after all, no matter what kind he may be. Oh, forget it. Let it go." Seeing Meru's swollen, sulking face, she quickly changed the subject. After a while, everyone returned to their chores. In Maruf Hassan's absence, Meru went to his room to clean it and stopped short with a start. Everything had been neatly arranged. The bed was folded and made. The sheet spread smoothly. His clothes hung on the peg. Comb, mirror, perfume lined up neatly on the side table, and right in the center of the opposite wall hung the list of instructions. Meru was utterly dumbfounded. Amma had never received a formal education, but she was not illiterate either. She could at least read the headlines of newspapers, and the instructions had certainly not been written in such ornate, high-flown Urdu that they would escape her understanding. Grinding her teeth, Meru darted forward. A chair was dragged over. A small stool was placed on top of it. Then she climbed onto the stool. With one swift tug, she yanked at the paper. And the next instant, she herself came crashing down while the stool toppled over her. "Ah!" A sharp cry burst from her throat. At that very moment, someone lifted the curtain and stepped inside. "What is going on here?" The question was asked with such calm composure, as though whatever was happening had been entirely deliberate, and Meru tried with all her might to faint somehow. If not from anything else, then at least from sheer embarrassment. But fate was not so kind. Instead, he calmly uttered a few reassuring words and lifted the stool off her. Only then was she able to scramble up and limp away as fast as she could manage. My charming, handsome beloved, I will dance with joy. Oh, my colorful, lively beloved, I will dance with joy. The radio was playing, and Meru truly had been dancing about on one leg since morning. But the reason had nothing to do with what the singer was crooning about. One of her knees had been badly bruised and swollen, and it refused to give her a moment's peace. With a suppressed smile, Maruf Hassan had offered to fetch some medicine for her, but Amma dismissed the idea with effortless certainty. A little oil massage will set it right. She warmed some oil herself, massaged Meru's knee firmly, then wrapped it in a cloth and insisted that Meru lie down and rest. So Meru stretched out on the charpoy, lying in the courtyard, pulling her dupatta over herself. It was a strangely wistful evening, and on evenings like this, her father would quietly return to her thoughts. A faint sense of deprivation would knock at the doors of her mind. Certain longings tugged softly at the hem of her heart. Even beneath the cover of her dupatta, as silent tears slipped from her eyes and drowsiness clouded her thoughts, she listened attentively to the birds chirping, the lively chatter of sparrows, the innocent questioning cheep-cheep of the hen's tiny chicks. From the street outside came the vegetable vendor's loud calls, and farther away, the excited shouts of children running after a fallen kite. She lay there for a long time, savoring the mild warmth of the evening air. The vegetable vendor had stopped right outside their door. In his coarse voice, he shouted the familiar names of vegetables over and over, like a daily chant. Amma stepped outside with a basket to buy some. Meru shifted the edge of her dupatta slightly away from her face. The orange glow of evening had begun to fade. Soon, the edges of the sky would turn dark. In the kitchen, Zebi was busy with the preliminary preparations for dinner. The radio lay nearby. Meru tried to catch the song playing, but the volume was too low. Aini shuffled past her in dragging slippers, herding the chicks toward their coop. Meru was just about to get up and go to the kitchen when Maruf Hassan entered the courtyard alongside Amma, chatting animatedly with her. Who knew what story he was narrating? Good heavens, someone must have tossed a stone into a perfectly calm river, Meru muttered under her breath. She lay back stiffly again. If she tried walking now, limping like this, she would take an hour to reach the kitchen, and she certainly had no intention of becoming a spectacle. So she decided to wait until he left. But he was an ill-mannered fellow through and through. Instead of going to his room, he seated himself comfortably on the wooden platform in the veranda. The kitchen lay directly in front of him. "Hey, doll," he called out to Aini. Go, bring a plate and some water." "And come take a look," he continued cheerfully. "I've brought some wonderful hot kachoris with yogurt chutney and crispy chickpeas. I had no idea the Japanese made such delicious kachoris." He went on talking. "I always thought they only made knives, daggers, and swords there." The remark was clearly aimed at them. Aini burst out laughing. Meru twisted and turned with irritation. "I've already taken my share," he said. "Take some to your sister in the kitchen as well. Who knows? After eating kachoris, she might feel like having tea. That way, we'll also get to taste what tea is like in your city." Day and night he stuffs himself, and still, he doesn't know what tea tastes like? Meru tossed her head angrily. "Oh yes, by the way," he added casually, "I hung a very important document in my room. If I could find it again, I'd show everyone that there are proper times for sleeping and waking. Sleeping for hours on end and wasting time? Not acceptable at all." There was mischief in his voice. He was exchanging knowing glances with Aini. Meru turned over angrily. "She hurt her knee quite badly," Aini informed him. "Well," he said lightly, There had to be some punishment for theft. Theft? Meru sat up with a jolt. What exactly did I steal? Her eyes blazed red as she glared straight at him. Maruf Hassan glanced at Amma, who was sitting nearby cutting vegetables. Had she not been there, he might have said everything plainly. Something had indeed been stolen here. But for now, he merely sat silently, smiling, his gaze fixed on the steam rising from the cup of hot tea. What a ridiculous accusation, Meru muttered indignantly. As if you brought diamonds and jewels with you that we could steal. Amma's eyes fell on her, sharp, furious warning. You never say anything to him, Meru burst out bitterly. He's getting away with everything for no reason. Her voice quivering, she got up. In her agitation, she hardly felt the pain in her knee anymore. She went straight into the kitchen and poured out all her frustration before Jebie. Outside, Amma was gently admonishing Maruf Hassan. Don't spoil their habits, she said. If they develop a taste for such fancy things, they'll trouble me tomorrow. I can barely manage simple meals of lentils and bread as it is. You should learn to save as well. If your parents were alive, they would have taught you the value of money. In good times and bad, a little savings always proves useful. Always try to put something aside. My heart shattered into 1,000 pieces. One fell here, another there. The three of them were gathered on the freshly washed kitchen floor. Amma had gone out to visit a sick neighbor in the locality. Maruf Hassan had also left after breakfast, so taking full advantage of the opportunity, they turned the radio up loud. Aini was twisting cotton into little wicks for the lamp, while Meru tossed tufts of cotton into the air, dramatically demonstrating the lyric, one fell here, another there. Jebie sat nearby, busy polishing the glass chimney of the lantern, when suddenly, someone cleared his throat loudly, just a few steps behind the kitchen door. All three looked up. A moment later, Maruf Hassan appeared in the doorway, burdened with bags. Lentils, spices, sugar, ghee, rice, and goodness knows what else. What is all this? Meru asked, glancing questioningly at Jebie. Jebie only shrugged helplessly. And this? Meru demanded, turning to Maruf. Groceries, household supplies. First kachoris the day before yesterday, then bread and eggs yesterday, and now a whole month's worth of rations today. Is this place running an orphanage or what? Excuse me? Maruf stared at her, startled by the storm gathering in her fiery expression. What do you take us for? Poor, helpless beggars? Yes, we're poor and alone, but we earn our own bread with our own hands. We have absolutely no need for such charity. If you're such a generous landlord, stand in the street and distribute your wealth among the beggars and fakirs. Fill the bowls of widows and the needy. She stood there blazing like a flame, two loyal advisors planted on either side of her. Look, this is unfair. Really, this is too much. Maruf tried several times to speak, but every attempt was clipped short as though by a pair of scissors. In the end, he stood there quietly, shoulders drooping, hands clasped, tongue glued to the roof of his mouth, while the lightning of her anger kept striking. A wild beauty, a jungle queen, lightning of Hong Kong, flames of Bangkok, pistols firing, bang, bang, rifles, rat-tat-tat. His heart felt shredded, and the good lady would not even allow him the courtesy of a sigh. If this is your idea of paying rent for living here, then spare us the favor. The city is full of hotels. Go, stay there. But these so-called acts of kindness are beyond our tolerance. A few coins come into someone's pocket, and they begin to think themselves great. We, too, have honor and dignity. Exhausted at last, she collapsed onto the floor with a thud. Despite her efforts, a few tears escaped her eyes. The radio continued playing softly. Eyes weep, streaming tears. The heart lies ruined. With a sharp motion, someone switched the radio off. Maruf Hassan let out a long breath, relieved to discover he was still alive, He went to the water cooler, drank a few gulps, then quietly came back and sat beside her on his heels. From the upper pocket of his shirt, he pulled out a slip of paper and some money. Please tell Calabi that I couldn't find the last few items listed here. They weren't available at the Sunday market. I'll try somewhere else. What? Meru stared in shock. Through her tears, the room seemed to spin. The smiling face of Maruf Hassan, the few rupees lying in her lap, and the grocery list dancing before her eyes. Her own handwriting. Oh, she groaned, burying her face in her knees as she burst into sobs. Zebi, mortified, dropped the lantern glass she was holding. Aini, however, stuffed her dupatta into her mouth and continued giggling helplessly. Because at the end of the grocery list, after the necessary items, Meru had casually written, in a sudden flight of fancy, luxury villa, 1, Land Cruiser, 2, television, at least 40 inches, 1, servants, as required. Until now, it had always been Amma and Aini who went shopping. Aini would call out the items, and Amma would weigh and buy them. Who could have imagined that Maruf Hassan would dutifully carry out such errands like an unpaid servant? First, an extravagant display of materialism, and on top of that, a barrage of scolding. All evening, Meru sat sulking, eyes swollen. Aini found the whole matter hilariously funny. Zebi was worried. It isn't right to treat a guest like that, she murmured. Meru knew it too. As dusk fell, she gathered her courage and crept toward his room, perhaps for the 4th time. With trembling fingers, she pushed aside the curtain hanging over the doorway and peered inside. "What is it?" he barked from the dimly lit room. The curtain slipped from her hand. Heavens above! What sort of lions and leopards has he swallowed today? She thought nervously. Summoning courage again, she tried to step inside. "May I be allowed a few moments of rest?" he said. Bitter gourd soaked in neem, she muttered under her breath. Since morning, his tantrums haven't ended. Let him be, as if we care. Her regret vanished instantly. Stamping her feet, she turned and walked away. In the darkness of the room, Maruf Hassan smiled quietly to himself.